15,000 players. But why is nobody playing multiplayer? I started playing in 2021 and joined a multiplayer Discord server called WSC. After the basic rules, I started my first multiplayer game. I was very excited to use this cool build I had and play against real players. How did it go, you ask? Poorly, very poorly. I died so fast every single time. I sucked and was no match for the other players. I thought this was fine. Losing was only natural when starting out. Just needed some more practice. I thought, oh, how naive I was. Because it happened again and again and again. Each time I got more and more frustrated and just stopped playing after a while. What's even the point? I've died so many times without the chance to even enjoy the game. It was not fun. There seemingly was no improvement, no matter what builds I picked, how hard I tried, or how many guides I watched. Nothing was working. I was ready to quit, but then a friend asked me to play some Stellaris with him and a few others. I was hesitant, but this was someone I've played with quite a lot, so I accepted, and this was the best decision I have ever made. It made me realize how fun multiplayer could be. As I played more and more, I started to genuinely improve, but he got bored after a while. Alas, that was fine. I could just ask the others. At one point, I got good enough to be a genuine threat to everyone in my friends list, and as I played people with similar skill levels, slowly, they too got bored. One by one, they all dropped the game, and I was back to square one, all alone once again. I decided to go back with a reinvigorated passion for the game. I joined a lobby. This was officially the start of my addiction to Stellaris Multiplayer, and the start of this channel and the main one itself. This is likely what you're gonna experience as a new player, minus having friends and actually improving. Okay, but why do people play multiplayer in the first place if it's that bad? Well, because even with the insanely steep learning curve, it's still fun. Out of the 10 boring games, you'll get that one game where, against all odds, you barely squeeze victory. I still fondly remember the adrenaline rush I felt in such a situation. It made all the practice, hardships, and boredom for hours on end worth it. Now, if you've experienced this high in multiplayer, you can never go back. I genuinely cannot enjoy single player anymore, as it will never give you the same strategic challenge of dealing with players. Heck, this may sound heretical, but I have never played single player for more than 1 hour before getting bored and closing the game. Because the AI is bad, like really bad, if compared to players. Paradox never really got a good reputation for making good AIs. I mean, their games are hard enough for humans already. Like seriously, learning one of their games is a full-time job in of itself. I do, however, need to recognize the many players that play single player regularly, which is actually the majority of the player base. Video games are supposed to be fun after all, and these players just want to play casually to relax and build an empire to roleplay as an escape from their harsh daily lives. Instead of playing for 2 hours, building their empires from the ground up, only to get destroyed by a guy that played the same build over and over again. But let's be real here, that's basically the multiplayer experience for the majority of players. If you're really scared of multiplayer, you should join one of the many roleplay servers that focus on story building and diplomacy, instead of only war and conquest. I think that's the best way for people new to multiplayer, as it doesn't demand a level of play where you have to be aware at all times. Wars and conflict need a few pages of diplomatic interactions to take shape, and the best part, where I'm sure new players will love, no metagaming. What a paradise. Okay, too many good things. Time to talk about the bad side of multiplayer. You know how I said multiplayer was fun? I lied. That's only half the time. The other half is spent on lobby simulator, aka hell, called desyncs. No matter what, if you're desynced, you're dead, out of the game, destroyed, clapped. The type of desync and when it happens is completely random. Depending on the type, you can either lose control of your fleets or your entire empire as a whole. It sucks when it happens. It can ruin an otherwise great game for everyone. Imagine becoming the Crisis while fighting the Custodian and his lackeys. You're both in an eternal war raging on for 100 years, and just before the final battle, the Custodian desyncs and lose control of their empire. What a terribly anticlimactic ending. The worst part, there's no real way to fix this, as even if you save and rehost, there's also another bug that eternally repeats this over and over over again, no matter how many times you try to rehost or hot join. If it happens to a minor player, then they would have to be kicked to not cause a desync contagion. But if this happens to a major player in a galaxy, it would require a rehost. And if you've played multiplayer before, this becomes a complete nightmare. Except too many hot joins, oops, the game won't transfer the saves and the loading is frozen. Somebody has bad internet, enjoy some lobby simulator for half an hour. Oh wow, everyone's loaded, and that one final player accidentally misclicks an empire and there's no way to revert it, requiring another rehost and a lot of pain. Of course, I have the displeasure of experiencing all of these events, and I can tell you right now, they ain't fun. With this perspective, it makes sense that multiplayer was basically an abandoned child in the eyes of Paradox. I mean, it literally took them a few years just to fix the Endless Expanse dig site, you know, the one that basically breaks the game if anyone digs it up. Like, no joke, it breaks the save. It was simply such a mess to fix the never-ending stream of bugs. It's better now due to the contributions by the community and the Custodians initiative by Paradox, which is actually focused on the longevity of the game, including bug fixes and balance patches. But it very much is still a niche type of play that only a handful of players actually adapt to. For example, the Year 30 Rush. This is a classic in all multiplayer servers that is prevalent everywhere. Why Year 30, you ask? Apparently, some guy, yes, some guy, just made a suggestion one day, and after a domino effect of each server adopting this again and again, it just became the norm everywhere. Obviously, this very arbitrary number has been a topic of contention. Some say it's the most balanced year because it allows for a lot of builds to get everything they need in a war consistently. To a certain extent, yes, that is true. But is it healthy for the community? Good question. What this does is just create a divide at what the single player and multiplayer communities want, while also forcing a type of play that not everyone may enjoy. Some say it's bad as it caters to a specific set of builds that may not change much, while some say it's great as repeatedly playing the same thing over and over again is a good test of skill. But this logic falls flat on its head because, I mean, let's face it, luck is better. If you happen to run a build that gets hard countered by the enemy, you're dead no matter what, as there's no time to change it, all just because of one arbitrary number. Now, let's actually talk about the issues in multiplayer and why nobody plays it. Balance mods. Stellaris was never designed for competitive play, so a mod that fixes everything sounds like a dream come true. The problem is what to change. This becomes a massive can of worms that not everyone can agree on. It just evolves into an argument that usually ends up splintering the community. Not to mention just adding a massive wall for new players to get into. Not only do they need to learn the base game and the plethora of rules, they also need to learn the often massive changes done by the balance mods. There have been like 3 mods so far, and all of them got abandoned and discontinued after a while. 1 due to lack of interest and 2 to extreme internal drama. It was an absolute mess. Oh yeah, I forgot to explain that at some point, every game will have a text wall for rules to complement the already overly complicated balance mods. Imagine if you're a new player and having to read something a lawyer would write. It simply is impossible to not trip a rule in this situation. Stellaris is an inherently unbalanced and broken game at its core, and that's okay. People always complain about balance, but right now, it's the most balanced it's ever been. For example, they fixed the absolutely toxic techno-slaver meta. Remember that time when every lobby was basically a techno-slaver slugfest? It was so boring. There was no variety in builds. They also fixed Ring World's absolutely overpowered research output and made them into garbage tier, but alas, better than seeing them on every lobby with an aforementioned toxic meta. They also fixed the neutron launcher and big weapons problem, changing the monotonous and frankly boring design concepts of the past few years into something more interesting. I have had a lot more fun in this patch looking at enemy designs and trying to counter them compared to previous versions where I just built one ship type, maybe 2 weapons, and just no retreat every single goddamn time. Frankly, it got boring. Not to mention some things in the game just never appear. Take corvettes for example. awful. In multiplayer, it's just so god-awful. It's not even funny. You can win your first war with it, sure, but you'll 100% lose the second one. And there simply was just no counterplay to advanced large weapons. I have to give credit though. A lot of things have improved now thanks to the devs' Custodian initiative. Now, the multiplayer hosts themselves. Paradox games have a classic feature, being that only the hosts need the DLCs for everyone to play it. Oftentimes, there's only a small number of eligible hosts. Ignoring PC and network requirements, you get a very small number of good hosts compared to the active player base. Why? Because even if they're a good host, they might not be a good person to play with. Attack them and you're kicked. Look at them funny and you're kicked. Heck, even the mention of a joke gets you kicked. These people aren't fun to play with and pretty bad for the community. But as long as you're in a multiplayer server with good moderation, these hosts will get pointed out, shunned, and promptly driven out of the entire community. For the love of God, just please don't join the public lobbies. You're just gonna get terrible people with the aforementioned behaviors. Now, I have to mention the chat hosts that carry the community. There are a lot of them that do unpaid work to make games happen. I honestly cannot understate the importance of these hosts for multiplayer. They often have to deal with many unsavory comments and individuals, but yet they keep going. Without them, multiplayer wouldn't be what it is today. Here's a story of a host, a Chad host, once carried an entire server and community on his back by hosting consistently every single day. He hosted and played so much, he basically became the face of the server for a while. Day by day, he went at it. Of course, he met some unsavory types that tried to target him and ruin his fun, but he didn't let it get to him. And thus, the living legend of a host was born. He continued hosting until he himself got burnt out of the game and stopped playing. Thank you, Stanley. Your back must have hurt from all that carrying for a year. You basically revived one of the biggest multiplayer servers all by yourself. Truly an achievement I cannot ignore. Even if you don't play anymore, what you did will always have a special place in my heart. All the memories we all had together, all the shenanigans, all the fights, if only we could go back to that time. But alas, as people move on, I can only look forward to meeting you again. And that is my tribute to the Stellaris Multiplayer community. I made a lot of fun memories and will continue to do so in the future. As for roleplay servers, I'm only recently diving into it, so maybe you'll get a version 2 of this in a year or two, but alas, next time. Thank you to all the community members that supported me on screen right now. It means a lot to me, and I hope I can continue to do this in the future. Oh, and I also made a Patreon. My upload schedule is awful, so a monthly pledge would really help. I'll even mention your name. See you all soon.